What is up, everybody? We are on day 205 of our Bible in a Year series, continuing in Isaiah today, and we're actually moving on from some of the warnings of Assyria and involving Israel's judgment to more of a message of hope. We're going to see a prophecy of what is called the branch of Jesse going down, pointing to a future king who will bring justice, peace, and restoration to Israel. I bet you can guess who it is, but we will jump right in. Isaiah chapter 10. Woe to those enacting crooked statutes and writing oppressive laws, to keep the poor from getting a fair trial and to deprive the needy among my people of justice, so that widows can be their spoil and they can plunder the fatherless. What will you do on the day of punishment? When devastation comes from far away, who will you run to for help? Where will you leave your wealth? There will be nothing to do except crouch among the prisoners or fall among the slain. In all this, his anger has not turned away, and his hand is still raised to strike. Woe to Assyria, the rod of my anger, the staff in their hands is my wrath. I will send him against a godless nation. I will command him to go against a people destined for my rage, to take spoils, to plunder, and to trample them down like clay in the streets. But this is not what he intends. This is not what he plans. It is his intent to destroy and to cut off many nations. For he says, aren't all my commanders kings? Isn't Calno like Carchemish? Isn't Hamath like Arpad? Isn't Samaria like Damascus? As my hand seized the kingdoms of worthless images, kingdoms whose idols exceeded those of Jerusalem and Samaria, and as I did to Samaria and its worthless images, will I not also do to Jerusalem and its idols? But when the Lord finishes all his work against Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will say, I will punish the king of Assyria for his arrogant acts and the proud look in his eyes. For he said, I have done this by my own strength and wisdom. For I am clever. I abolished the borders of nations and plundered their treasures like a mighty warrior. I subjugated the inhabitants. My hand has reached out as if into a nest to seize the wealth of the nations. Like one gathering abandoned eggs, I gathered the whole earth. No wing fluttered, no beak opened or chirped. Does an axe exalt itself above the one who chops with it? Does a saw magnify itself above the one who saws with it? It would be like a rod waving the ones who lift it. It would be like a staff lifting the one who isn't wood. Therefore, the Lord God of armies will inflict an emaciating disease on the well-fed of Assyria, and he will kindle a burning fire under its glory. Israel's light will become a fire, and its Holy One a flame. In one day it will burn and consume Assyria's thorns and thistles. He will completely destroy the glory of its forests and orchards as a sickness consumes a person. The remaining trees of its forests will be so few in number that a child could count them. On that day, the remnant of Israel and the survivors of the house of Jacob will no longer depend on the one who struck them, but they will faithfully depend on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. The remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, the mighty God. Israel, even if your people were as numerous as the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return. Destruction has been decreed. Justice overflows, for throughout the land the Lord God of armies is carrying out a destruction that was decreed. Therefore, the Lord God of armies says this, my people who dwell in Zion do not fear Assyria, though they strike you with rod and raise their staff over you as the Egyptians did. In just a little while my wrath will be spent and my anger will turn to their destruction, and the Lord of armies will brandish a whip against him, as he did when he struck Midian at the rock of Oreb, and he will raise his staff over the sea as he did in Egypt. On that day, his burden will fall from your shoulders and his yoke from your neck. The yoke will be broken because your neck will be too large. Assyria has come to Aeth and has gone through Migron, storing their equipment at Michmash. They crossed over at the ford, saying, "We will spend the night in Geba." The people of Ramah are trembling. Those in Gibeah of Saul have fled. Cry aloud, daughter of Galim. Listen, Laisha Anathoth is miserable. Madmena has fled. The inhabitants of Gebim have sought refuge. Today the Assyrians will stand at Nob, shaking their fists at the mountain of daughter Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Look, the Lord God of armies will chop off the branches with terrifying power, and the tall trees will be cut down, the high trees felled. He is clearing the thickets of the forest with an axe, and Lebanon with its majesty will fall. Chapter 11. Then a shoot will grow from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from its roots will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, a spirit of wisdom and understanding, a spirit of counsel and strength, a spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. His delight will be in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes. He will not execute justice by what he hears with his ears, but he will judge the poor righteously and execute justice for the oppressed of the land. He will strike the land with a scepter from his mouth, and he will kill the wicked with a command from his lips. Righteousness will be a belt around his hips. Faithfulness will be a belt around his waist. The wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf, the young lion, and the fattened calf will be together, and a child will lead them. The cow and bear will graze, their young ones will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like cattle. An infant will play beside the cobra's pit, and a toddler will put his hand into a snake's den. They will not harm or destroy each other on my entire holy mountain, for the land will be as full of the knowledge of the Lord as the sea is filled with water. I like that line. The land will be as full of the knowledge of the Lord as the sea is filled with water. Now, if you missed it, they were talking about Jesus there. That wasn't just an earthly king they were talking about. Verse 10. On that day, the root of Jesse, and the reason they talked about the branch of Jesse, the root of Jesse here. So Jesse, as we read earlier, was the father of David, and Jesus comes from the line of David on both his mother's side and his earthly father's side come through that line of David. Verse 10. On that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will look to him for guidance, and his resting place will be glorious. On that day, the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover the remnant of his people who survive from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and the coasts and islands of the west. He will lift up a banner for the nations and gather the dispersed of Israel. He will collect the scattered of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Ephraim's envy will cease. Judah's harassing will end. Ephraim will no longer be envious of Judah, and Judah will not harass Ephraim. But they will swoop down on the Philistine flank to the west. Together they will plunder the people of the east. They will extend their power over Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites will be their subjects. The Lord will divide the Gulf of Suez. He will wave his hand over the Euphrates, with his mighty wand, with mighty wind, and will split it into 7 streams, letting people walk through on foot. There will be a highway for the remnant of his people who were survived from Assyria, as there was for Israel when they came up from the land of Egypt. Chapter 12. On that day, you will say, I will give thanks to you, Lord. Although you were angry with me, your anger has turned, and you have comforted me. Indeed, God is my salvation. I will trust him and not be afraid, for the Lord himself, is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. You will joyfully draw water from the springs of salvation, and on that day you will say, Give thanks to the Lord, proclaim his name, make his works known among the peoples, declare that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known throughout the earth. Cry out and sing, citizen of Zion, for the Holy One of Israel is among you in his greatness. Okay. That is it for the reading for today, and now we will jump into our questions. Okay, question 1. How does God use Assyria as an instrument of judgment, and what does that teach us about his sovereignty over nations? We see this not just with Assyria, but we see this with other nations as well. The Babylonians are one, and as we were reading through the line of kings previously and what happened to the different kings and the nation of Israel at different times, we saw God would send nearby nations into Israel, showing his sovereignty over those nations. Now, we don't know exactly how that looks. It could be that God plants a thought in their head, or that God knows them too. God created them too. He knows them better than they know themselves. So that means that God could make things happen that he knows would trigger that leader, the king of Assyria or the king of Babylonia or Babylon, to go in and try to take over Israel. So there's different ways that could. It doesn't necessarily have to be a God like grabbing him and moving him like a puppet type of thing. It could be that God sets the stage, makes the circumstances such that it entices them to go into Israel and do that. But God does use other nations as judgment against Israel. Then those nations will often get punished for how they treat Israel too. And so that's why I tend to think it's more of a God kind of setting the stage to where they will, because it sounds very Calvinistic to me to say like God like basically like this, the king of Assyria is a meat puppet, and God like made him go do that, and then he gets punished for it. It sounds like a very Calvinistic interpretation. It is a Calvinistic interpretation, but I disagree with that for obvious reasons. Number one being I'm not a Calvinist, and I don't think that's a correct reading. But this is not a video on Calvinism. So, question 2. What does the image of the shoot from the stump of Jesse reveal about God's faithfulness to his promises despite Israel's failures? God made the promise that this future king, right, we're talking about Jesus, this future king was going to come through Israel. It was going to be through Abraham, through the descendants of Abraham, the entire world would be blessed. We see that made Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Those promises are made. And then once it splits off, we see it kind of starts to go down through Judah. Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah, is one of the names. But it goes down. We see it goes through Jesse. We see it's going to be a king. Jesus is going to be a descendant of David. And we see when we get to the genealogies in the New Testament, they trace Jesus' genealogy from David to Mary, and then from David to Joseph. So it's God made this promise, and he has kept it throughout Israel, turning their back on him. God still made the promise to Israel. It wasn't a conditional promise. Actually, I believe if you look back, I believe this is the promise. When God makes the covenant with Abraham, they're there, but God causes Abraham to kind of pass out or fall asleep, and then when Abraham wakes up, he realizes the covenant has been made. So it's almost like God has made the covenant with himself on Abraham's behalf, because he knows that they're not going to be able to uphold their end. Um, I'm generalizing that story. I don't remember off the top of my head where it is. Obviously, it's somewhere in Genesis. But I will, yeah. Let me actually see real quick if I can look it up. And, really quickly. Genesis 15. While God is establishing a covenant with Abraham, Abraham falls into a deep sleep. The supernatural sleep is described as a deep sleep and accompanied by a terrifying darkness. Um, yeah, so you can go back and see that again, or go back and or go back and see our video there, or go back and read it yourself. It's a good option too. What question are we on? Question 3. In Isaiah 12, what role does praise play in the life of the redeemed, and how might this shape our response to God's work in our lives today? We should understand whether God does anything that we see for us or not, he deserves our praise. He is more than worthy of all the praise. If he never does another single thing for you in your life, he deserves praise. If he never does anything for you in your life, he deserves praise. And part of this being redeemed, I think, is understanding that you don't deserve any positive, but God gives us some anyways. The only reason you are even able to draw breath is because God gave you the ability to do so. So there is a fundamental truth there that God is 100% worthy of praise, whether things are going in a good way for you or not, whether it's something that you like or not. God deserves praise. Period. End of story. And that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll be back in Isaiah some more, and be some more good stuff. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as all those things help the channel grow. If this has been a blessing to you, you can share it with somebody else. It can be a blessing to them, and word of mouth is the best way that podcasts grow as well. So that can be something that helps this channel as well. Come back every single day. We're going to have more content every single day. Bible reading plan. We're going through the Bible an entire year, different teachings, all kinds of just really great biblical sound stuff like that. So you're not going to want to miss it. Come back, subscribe. Thanks. God bless.